Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the talks underway between, of course, the government and the opposition. And yet again, we have, been here before. We've talked about whether the talks will proceed or not. We've talked about the fact how they come to a certain point, and invariably there are delays, and invariably there is, they're stalled for reasons. There's a lot of course, rumor mongering. There's a lot that is said about, each side saying that the other isn't sincere. What is the situation on the ground? We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about the social media handles of political parties and how much and what that is being said on their social media and what that attributes to the seriousness of these talks, and whether it is a carrot and stick approach that the opposition is actually trying to use to further these talks, if at all. What is actually happening on ground? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Daniyal Sheikh, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Dr. Shezra Mansab Ali with the PML-N. Thank you for being with us today. Barrister Safi Ghauri, who's a political analyst, of course a lawyer. Thank you for joining us today. We'll also be joined a little later on by other guests during the course of the program. I'm going to go to Dr. Shezra. Dr. Shezra, we've spoken about this before. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And we've spoken about the seriousness of these talks. We've also spoken about the fact whether what the opposition is asking for is necessarily a deliverable as far as the government is concerned. Of course, we don't have any written demands on the table at this time. We know what is being said here and there. What is the situation at this time as far as the government is concerned?
Thank you, Mahrukh. Like you said, we've been talking about this before also, and for a long time, PTI was not ready to talk to any of the other political parties at all, and they were insisting that they wanted to talk to the establishment only. It was only after they tried everything else, including demanding again and again from the establishment to talk to them, including trying to do dharnas and other propaganda and everything, but most of those things failed. Especially the last call, the so-called last call that they gave on the 26th of November, when they thought that a lot of people would come out, but none of their leadership came out, and very few people came out from any other provinces. Only they were able to use government resources and get people from KP. And even those people were left high and dry while the leadership ran away. So after that, now they've come to the table, but again, they've started different demands, which some of them the government has said that they will be able to fulfill them. For example, they wanted to have a meeting with their leader Imran Khan, which the government said they would facilitate. However, after that, the first demand, then came a whole lot of other demands with that they wanted the meeting to take place in this kind of an atmosphere, in an open place where there should be nobody around them. And then even Asad Kaisar said that they not only wanted to meet Imran Khan, but all the other leaders as well. Now, any meeting that the government facilitates can only be according to the jail manual. We cannot go outside of that and facilitate them for that kind of a meeting. Secondly, we had asked for a charter of demands written, which they haven't given us yet. Now, apparently, they've decided and said that they will give that charter of demands. So let's see what happens. What demands do they give? The thing is, Mahrukh, that the party is already divided into so many groups. There is the Alima group, there is the Bushra group, there are other groups. Yesterday only, I think two of their leaders had a sort of a disagreement, and which was they were doing that on TV, telling each other that the other person was wrong. The previous Secretary General and Chair Afzal Marwat. So there's so many disagreements, and so the government wants to be very sure that whatever charter of demands they do give, they then stick to those demands, and then we'll talk about those demands. That's the whole purpose of holding these talks. We cannot say yes or no. without actually talking about them and without seeing what is the way out, where the government will try as much as they can within the framework of the constitution and the law of the land to facilitate them and do whatever they want to fulfill their demands. But at the same time, perhaps
You've
they
summed it
might
up
have
really
to.
well. Right, you've summed it up really well. Let me go to Safiullah and then I'll come back to you. Safiullah, first of all, we've spoken about the fact that what is allowed or what can be done or what is, within the purview of what the government can do. In terms of meetings, of course, we know that the former Prime Minister has been having meetings with with different people from his team. Is that not correct?
Yeah, absolutely, Mahrukh. And this is one of the funniest things that I find about PTI. I really want to confront PTI leaders, especially the ones running their social media teams, on a very important question. They keep saying the same thing perpetually on their social media, that there is no contact, nobody's allowed to meet him. And if you look at the social media, it's very funny because there will be one tweet or one Instagram post that says, let's say 20 days, we have not been able to contact our leader. And the very next post will be like, Imran Khan met this and this leader and he instructed that we need to do this now or whatever. So it's these self-contradictory social media posts just don't make sense to me. I can't understand what an ordinary PTI fan would be going through reading two different things on a daily basis. On a daily basis, he's being told that his leader is not being allowed to meet anyone, and then a news comes out that he is allowed to meet someone. A news comes out that his leader is getting poisoned. Then his own party leaders are coming out saying, "Oh no, we checked his health; he's perfectly fine." A news comes out that he has been deprived of food. Then another news comes out that no, he's in fact had desi chicken in the morning, and things are all fine. It's the level of confusion that PTI.
Safiullah, let's talk about something that Dr. Shezra mentioned. She mentioned the jail manual. Let's talk about the legality of this. Of course, we understand that as far as politics go, and in the interests of in the larger interests of country and governance and of course democracy, things are facilitated. This is also something that by convention, of course, in countries all over the world, and things do happen, but they have to, like Dr. Shezra said, be done within the parameters of the law. And what the government can and cannot do is of course something that has to be.
I'll go one step forward, which is that I think already extra concessions have been given. Imran Khan is the only leader whom journalists have easy and open access to. You see this all the time. This was done by an order of the Islamabad High Court. The Islamabad High Court said that any journalist should be allowed to go and meet him. There have been contingents of journalists, up to 30 journalists going to meet him. Now you and I are both lawyers. We know that none of our clients who go to jail will ever get such a thing. If we have to go, we have to file applications to allow even family members to go and meet people in the jail, let alone open access to journalists, open access to other party leaders. And these meetings happen on a daily basis. On a daily basis, people are going to go and meet him. So I don't really know what they keep asking for when they keep saying that they want extra concessions. What concessions do they want? Like what is it that they are really asking for? If you were to look at the complaints that he has put up, if you remember, Mahrukh, he put up a complaint in the Supreme Court saying that he does not have access to books and to an air conditioner and to reading material. And then the superintendent jail of Adiala jail gave a complete record of all the things, along with pictures of Imran Khan using exercise machinery, of Imran Khan eating food, of Imran Khan sitting in front of the air conditioner that he has. So after all of these things were provided to the court and the court confronted the lawyers, they said, "Oh, there was a mistake. We thought that there was a load shedding for 2 hours, and that's during those 2 hours he did not have access to an air conditioner." But you see, that's the point, that there is such a high degree of lie. And I'll add to everything that was said by Ms. Shezra just now, and add to that one more thing. So whatever the government says PTI is doing wrong, so for instance, the government says PTI is not providing us a written charter of demands, that PTI does not have the authority to talk. PTI comes and says the same thing. Well, the government has not given us written demands. The government does not have the authority. They have infighting amongst themselves. They are parroting the same narratives. And it's honestly so childish at this stage. Like when we were children, we used to have this very childish thing to say, something along the lines of "Jo kehta hai wo khud hota hai." That's honestly what it sounds like with PTI right now. Anything that happens, they just turn around and they say without any logic, without
Let me come back to you. Let me come back to you. I'm going to include Daniyal in this also. Daniyal, but we know that in the history of the country, and if we talk to the PTI representatives, they say that it is not. If we compare political leaders with the plights of common men, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever one may, however one may look at it, it's not the same. And it hasn't been, if we look back at the history. So in that sense, of course, do you think that it is, but then, what, even within the purview of what is done for political leaders, there is that which is possible and that which is not possible. Do you think the PTI is inching closer towards realizing this now?
More than that, see, if you go back and if you look at for the past year, their way of politics was very confrontational. They thought that somehow they will be able to bring the government on a negotiation table by force, which has failed miserably. See, the only positive thing in this whole development that I see is the very fact that now they have come to the realization that they have to mend their ways, and they have to come towards dialogue because all their other methods have failed. Now in the dialogue, had God forbid, had their strategy succeeded, they would have been in a position of advantage, which they obviously are not. Now as far as the demands are concerned, obviously right now they must be discussing within the party ranks how to what to demand. Like Dr. Shezra just told us, see, basically the way I look at it, there are basically two factions. One of the faction is which is currently in government in KPK, and the beneficiaries of that government, the Chief Minister and his cabinet and the people associated with them. Now for them it is basically counterproductive for the incarcerated leader to come out, because if you look back in history when they were governing through KPK through Pervez Khattak, at that time the party chairman was involved in every single decision to the extent that the CM had no autonomy in his working. Later on, when Mahmood Khan was made chief minister, at that time the then principal secretary in Islamabad, he was running the entire show in KPK. So now the current CM knows very well, if this person is to be released, the first person whose wings is going to be clipped is going to be the chief minister. So having
said, so you're saying within the party there is, of course, the leadership itself, there are rifts, which is what Dr. Shezra also mentioned.
So once the demands, so now the demand for immediate release is the demand, wherever it's going to come from, it's basically there's no relief for the chairman, because it's obviously not possible. But on the other side,
then we also have statements from the PTI leaders saying that it has, if there is such, if the former Prime Minister is moved, it will be because of his health, or it will be because of his other issues as far as security is concerned or health concerns are concerned.
Well, that, considering him being, whether we agree or not, being if you look at his political status, those considerations I think the jail manual very well allows, and I personally, as a political analyst, I think they should be given those concessions, because see, the whole purpose of putting somebody in jail is a correction facility. The very fact, if they have come to the conclusion that they have to mend their politics and they have to come back into mainstream and they have to dialogue, that very fact is an indication of that correction facility, the incarceration basically worked. If that wasn't happening, see, like there's a famous saying, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, if at any point he is to be released, that point can only come once he has learned from his mistake. So the very fact that they are now agreeing to dialogue basically endorses the fact that they have learned at least something.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Shezra. Dr. Shezra, what is your, is there some truth to this, that there might be, the former Prime Minister may be moved because of these considerations, which of course the government can make, considering according to law, because of his health or because of security, or because this has been said by your party, I believe.
Yes, this was just a general statement, I believe, saying that if there were health concerns or security concerns, then the law allows him to move and his house to be declared a jail, then that is a possibility. It's not. We cannot say that that is not a possibility. However, that's the only thing that it is up till now, just a possibility. We'll see how the talks go, because with the saying that they want to talk and they've agreed to come to the table, with that, as you said earlier, the parallel aggressive attitude continues. One, in the tweets. For example, just a couple of days ago, Imran Khan, tweeted about saying things about the Prime Minister of Pakistan, about the various martial laws, and then discussing how that martial law is, similar to what's happening in the country now, talking about the chief and other things. So, he's doing that. Then on the secondly, they had also said, Imran Khan had said that he's going to continue with the call for civil disobedience, which he did. The government did not try to stop him from doing that. And the result is right there in front of them, that as of December, the remittances have crossed all previous records, and the remittances that Pakistanis have sent have really gone very high, $3.1 billion. So again, what's happening is that they are failing at their various strategies. Their aggression is failing. People are not now ready to buy this narrative of aggression, of all the time coming on streets and all the time just doing this propaganda. People can see that the government, whether in Punjab or in the federal government, are working, and we're getting positive results. Just previously, there was this reprehensible, cyber attack on the Chief Minister, Maryam Nawaz Sharif Sahiba, when she had gone to meet the UAE, the president. So things like that are still continuing from the PTI side.
And they're not true. I mean, we also have, you mentioned this, or I believe, maybe Barrister Safiullah mentioned this argument that happened between the Secretary General and, between senior leader Shezra Mansab Ali also recently. And of course, the fact that we also saw certain tweets by PTI leaders clarifying their stance on this cyber attack that happened on Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz, and of course, the rational elements within their party perhaps who said, necessarily put forward the fact that they don't necessarily agree with this kind of politics or of these kind of attacks on women. Do you think that is why there is this constant acrimony between the leadership of PTI that is present here? Because there are, those saner elements at the same time, or, perhaps more rational elements, and there are those that, are bow to the traditional style of PTI politics, which is more aggressive.
There are definitely saner elements in the party. I mean, all parties have people who are saner and look at the larger interests of the country and want to work for democracy and for the good of the public. But the problem is that the leader, Imran Khan, has always encouraged this kind of a behavior. He's always encouraged aggressive behavior. He's always encouraged foul language. He's always encouraged those leaders. When he was in power, we used to hear that the more foul language that a person used, the better he was encouraged and appreciated by the leader. And afterwards, also from jail, we have seen that when Ali Amin Gandapur used really bad language and denigrated journalists, women, everybody, and some of their leaders apologized on the floor of the House. He said that anybody who showed any weakness, Imran Khan said, could just leave the party. So it is from that place that all of this is coming. And even if there are any saner elements, they are completely, walked over when they go to that, their leader, who does not want anybody to take a step backward, who does not want anybody to give in or to try and see what's better for the country, and perhaps not for him. His sole purpose for all of this is to get out of the jail and get an NRO. We can see that, and many of their leaders have also said again and again that we want the Imran Khan to get out of jail, and all the other leaders as well. but the main focus is on Imran Khan. So there are saner elements, but there is so much disagreement within the party leadership. Alima Khan is saying something completely different. The present chairman, Barrister Ghauri, is saying something completely different, and then they are trying to undermine each other as well, and saying that whatever one leader says after they come out of from meeting Imran Khan, the other denies that and says no, this person does not have the right or the capacity to say anything on behalf of the party, and only I have the right to say, and then the other person again says no. So that kind of an infighting is going on, which also is very confusing for the public and for their workers as well, and for the government as well.
Right. Safullah, there's also, I think Dr. Shezra very rightly mentioned this cyber attack, and it goes back to the very root of the kind of politics that we've been speaking about, now and again, that have been at play for a while. The polarization that has unfortunately swept in, and the kind of politics that it means for minorities, unfortunately, like women, which who are which don't stop at any tier of society. And we've seen what happened with regard to the cyber attack on the Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz herself. That kind of politics that denotes a certain kind of narrative of a particular political party. Then we go back to the question.
Right, absolutely, Mahrukh. I think it's very reprehensible whenever attacks of the sort. Sorry, were you saying?
I'll just complete. I'm saying that so when we go back to the question of whether lessons have really been learnt or not, is it what we are trying to put forward? Are we trying to confine the space for women in terms, for those who are doing a stellar job, or working women, or are we trying to, what kind of an image of Pakistan are we putting forward? So those are the questions again that, unfortunately we have to go back to, right?
Absolutely, Mahrukh. I think this is such a wonderful thing that you have said, because at the end of the day, what is the purpose of politics? Why are we doing all of these things to begin with? Why are we even having these discussions? These discussions should not be held around the idea of who the party head should be, who should be the Prime Minister or the President of Pakistan. It should be about how the people of Pakistan are to be protected. And when we talk about the protection of people of Pakistan, the ones who are currently the most exposed, the most vulnerable, which include women, which include minority religion, they are the ones who are to be protected first and foremost. I think that's where all our efforts should be. But instead, what we see is a competition amongst political parties in trying to see who will damage the vulnerable groups first, who will damage women more, who will damage the religious minorities more, who will damage the ethnic minorities more. And that is just downright tragic. So PTI obviously takes the cake in all of these. They've been exploitative of religious minorities, of ethnic minorities. They've been playing the nationalism card in Pakhtunkhwa for a very long time. That has led to the degradation of the province, which is just downright tragic. And now the worst aspect is, like you very rightly pointed out, the treatment of women themselves. On the one hand, they have women like Bushra Bibi, who are presenting, in my opinion, a very unrealistic image of what a good leader women should be like. I think when we're talking about becoming progressive, we should have women who are actively participating based on their skills, not based on their religious connection with the supernatural entities that they might have. But the fact is that this is the shamanistic, the kind of weird cultish mentality that we are generating around what acceptable women are and then what unacceptable women are is downright tragic. Because what are they?
And by that we are playing to a certain part of society, not necessarily the most enlightened one has to say. And therefore we are trying to, whether they're trying to garner their support or whether they're trying to perhaps fester more of that into society, perhaps lead to the kind of a crime. I have to say that this eventually, and I think Dr. Shezra also, as a woman parliamentarian of who's experienced, who has been in the field for so long. I think that, I'd like her comments on this also. Because, for women to have that kind of safe space and the kind of image that, of course, the Chief Minister Punjab and what it means for women to see her there and to be working there, and for then to have this kind of attack, I think it goes to the very root of what is the most, what women are most unfortunately frightened of, or tried to be, women are made to fare most in society. Isn't that true, Dr. Shezra?
Yes, absolutely. This was, really condemnable, and the way that the PTI portrays itself to be a progressive party, and they say that they're all for the youth and they want to, it's a forward-looking party. But on the other hand, this kind of a despicable cyber attack that was launched on Maryam Nawaz Sharif Sahiba, and being a woman, even I have experienced this myself when I contested election in my Halka Nankana Sahib. One of the tools that the PTI people were using against me was that I was a woman. That was one of the things that they use in their election campaign. So it's really not. I don't know what kind of forward-looking people they are, what kind of a progressive party they are thinking of, and what kind of a progressive Pakistan they are thinking of, or a new Pakistan they are thinking of, in which women are given this kind of a treatment, or women are made made into this. They try to portray women as a weaker, gender who can be attacked like this on cyber. And then after that, Imran Khan has not condemned this at all. Not once has he said that this attack should be stopped, and it's very it's very shameful to attack a woman like this just because she's a woman. The only thing that happened was that because when their social media was attacking, they did not realize that while they were trying to attack Maryam Nawaz Sharif Sahiba, at the same time they were also denigrating the president of a friendly country, and a country with whom we have very important relationships. So they realized that too late, and then they tweeted a bit about that we welcome the president and all that. But they did not say, he did not categorically say that this kind of a campaign should stop, and that this was a shameful campaign to have been launched against a woman. He never condemned that in so many words, and neither did any of their party leaders. In fact, they had the gall to say that Maryam Nawaz Sharif used a certain kind of language against them. Although I think that she has been extremely, very restrained in how she responded. She did not respond in the same way that they had, launched that horrible attack on her. She was very restrained and very measured in her response. I think that the PTI people needed to give a much stronger response than they had in this society where there is so much patriarchy and so much misogyny. And we see this all around us. It's entrenched in our attitudes. We need to be extra careful how we treat women, how we talk about women, how we, try and bring women on the same platform as men, which is extremely important for the future of Pakistan.
And how safe they are in public spaces and in public jobs, and being in the limelight. And I think that's an extremely important question. Let me go to Daniyal. Daniyal, as far as this, the political party itself is concerned, as far as the discord between them is concerned, do you think that there is a possibility of there being a filter out of this kind of extremist style of politics? Like Dr. Shazri said, she's saying that it comes from the very top, and so therefore there is little chance of that happening unless that signal also comes from the top. But then we're also looking at the social media handle, like she said, which is openly against the armed forces, against making comments about that. So is it a carrot and stick approach? What do you think it is?
No, carrot and stick it would be if they were in a position of advantage, which after the failure of their last final call, they're obviously not. So it's not, I don't think they have the stick anymore. But you know, the way you people were mentioning, I don't want to sound like an anti-feminist, but you see, when women are in politics, obviously there should be a filter, but they will naturally be subjected to criticism. I think the greater problem that this party has is respecting the legal boundaries rather than criticizing on social media. See, as far as the criticism is concerned, as a political party, all the masses, when they're going to see it, they're obviously going to react, because every person who has a mother and sister, they don't want to see this kind of behavior with any woman. But as Dr. Shezra was just telling us, see, Pakistan, yes, being a patriarchal society.
Yes, but we talk about legal, we talk about criticism, we talk about the legal boundaries within criticizing, but that's about performance, that's about jobs, that's about how they're doing in their jobs, whether it's a man or a woman.
Exactly.
This kind of what I would say, this kind of shameful harassment, that cyberbullying that we are looking at, this kind of that we've seen happen in the recent past, is simply something that is not acceptable in any society.
Absolutely, it's not acceptable. But the whole society being patriarchal, it's now, as we are evolving, see the whole concept of a patriarchal society, or see why in third world people prefer sons over daughters, and in first world it's different. Because see, if you go back in history, when most of our forefathers, they had their reliance was on agriculture. So in agriculture, and as far as livestock and cattle is concerned, if you have a male offspring, he'll be a better breadwinner. But now, as things are changing, so like a lot of my friends or family members, they would rather have a educated or hard-working daughter than a sluggish son. So now, with evolution, this thing is changing. As far as this one political party or their criticism is concerned, I think it's a bit beyond. It's not centric to the fact that she's a woman. It's more to do with their own mentality, because it's not just that. Even if you look at the way they criticize the shohadas, the people who have given their life for this country, they don't even have respect for them. But now, as an optimistic person, I want to, at least I want to believe, see, the biggest issue with them is when a few thousand men assembling or marching towards the capital is not enough to bring down the state. But the economic implications of that kind of politics, like weeks before the stock exchange starts performing bad, we have other economic issues. So if that stops in the larger interest of the country, even if the government has to take a step back, I think looking at the larger interest of the country, it's going to be beneficial, especially considering all the economic indicators which are in favor, which are showing good performance of the government. So for them to, and secondly, see, once the dialogue starts, that's the best way to expose them. And more than that, see, now whether we like it or not, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is more than 40 million people. They cannot be left at the behest of this kind of politics. At some point, these people have to be brought into mainstream, and the first step towards that is dialogue. Even if the government has to take a step back in the larger interest of the country, I think they should definitely do that. As far as the mentality is concerned, like a few decades ago in Pakistan, for women to even leave their house was considered a taboo. Now you're seeing women working in different job in government offices.
But we can't go towards that kind of, yes, but we, for a political party to have this kind of, indulge in this kind of conduct, it goes to the very root of what a society stands for. And of course, it also means it's not the first time that we've seen, unfortunately, women in politics being subjected to this kind of attacks. We've also seen it recently happen with other women leaders of PML-N in the past. The question is that, where does the buck stop, and how does it stop, and where does one call it like it is? And when we talk about, you said that people will reject it, and let me include Safi Ullah in this also.
I just want to add something. See, this is a negative problem in our society, but why don't we look at the fact that we are the first Muslim country to have, but we are even not just Muslim, even if you compare, very few countries have had a Muslim Prime Minister. We have had, a woman Prime Minister, we have had a woman Speaker of the National Assembly. So, why should we not discuss those positives of this society rather than highlighting that negative aspect of society, which is slowly finishing, or slowly it's dying out? That's my assumption.
Let me go to Safiullah on this. Safiullah, do you think that it's dying down, or do you think that there should be responsibility to when it becomes that whenever you are in public office, whenever you are, whether we talk about political parties, whether we talk about what they stand for, what they, as far as women are concerned, they're a huge part of society. It doesn't matter where, who the woman, in question is, what the office of the woman in question is. We know that, of course, it doesn't take away anything from the person of the Chief Minister Punjab, from her persona, from her capability, from her performance, from her acumen. There's no doubt about that. And the thing is what the political party stands for with regard to women, and that is the larger question.
Yes, absolutely, Mahrukh. So I think whereas what Daniyal said is correct, but I would disagree. He did correctly say, of course, that Pakistan has made substantial strides when it comes to women being in important positions. Not just the Prime Minister, we have a female judge of the Supreme Court. We have, in every major position we've had a female, and that's wonderful for Pakistan, and I really appreciate Pakistan for that. But I will echo your concern, which is that this hatred towards women is getting worse. There's this movement called the incel movement, which started off in the US. I've always felt like Pakistan is full of incels. It's just that we don't know what these incels are like. And the problem here is that when we talk about criticism of women, I'm all for criticizing women, and no women should be beyond criticism of any sort. I do believe strongly that women should be criticized on incompetence, on corruption, on anything wrong that they've done on a policy level. 100%. If Maryam Nawaz is doing these things, go all out, criticize her. I will support you. But if we start criticizing her on her femininity, on her chastity, on her basic dignity, on her being a female doing something that would be considered unfeminine, that would be considered something that is, not as per your worldview of what women should be dressed like, what women should talk like, how women should sit. If that is going to be a problem, if you're going to criticize a woman on that, then we have a serious problem. Because a woman in any position is exactly that. If she's a Prime Minister, if she's a Chief Minister, then she's a Chief Minister. She's a Prime Minister. Criticize her for her role, but do not criticize her for her person. Do not criticize her for being a woman that she is. And if that is going to become a problem, and that is a major issue that PTI has. PTI consistently stereotypes people. Oh, we are Pathans. Pathans are Ghairatmand. We have seen even the lady Bushra Bibi saying that to all the Pathans to try and galvanize them to try and go and take over D-Chok, when she kept saying you are Pathans, you are Ghairatmands, as opposed to Punjabis, which she also consistently said that you will never abandon me, you will never. These are weird stereotypes, and this, along with those stereotypes, comes along other stereotypes around the fact that women might be incompetent because they do not, historically they have not been ruling. So by reinforcing these strange kind of stereotypes, what we do is we divide the society, we polarize the society, we neglect the sectors and the segments of society that ought to be participating. And that is the reason. Women in Pakistan are the majority of our population. They are not the minority. They are in fact more than the men in Pakistan are. But the reason why we feel that there are such little women because they do not have access to the public spaces is because the way we have confined them historically, consistently, by forcing them into a little hole, which is their rooms, telling them that this is chadar, char diwari, this is what your role is, this is where you ought to be, you cannot get out of here. And we are the ones who are suffering. Today, because more than 50% of our workforce is not allowed to come out and work, we as a result are struggling economically. We are in a terrible situation when it comes to our governance. We are in a terrible situation when it comes to our safety because women cannot go out safely. And this is what happens. You might start with women, but then eventually this will go on to other children, this will go on to other men, this will go on to continued marginalization. So I think it's necessary that we recognize that these are evils within our society, and we need to fight them head on. And I think when political parties start doing this, like PTI has been doing, they need to be called out by everyone without any qualms whatsoever.
Dr. Shezra, I'd like your comments also on this, and whether, you know, as far as this now, of course, these talks are expected to continue, like we were earlier talking about, when, you know, after this brief interval that we've had, do you expect there to be you know, now written demands to be submitted by the PTI?
Yes, as far as what was just being said, I absolutely agree about the stereotyping of women. And I also just want to point out that Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz Sharif is a role model for millions of young girls and young boys. And the way that she has stood up with her father in a time when he was alone, his wife had died, and he was going through so much trouble politically and otherwise, and he was being victimized politically. She was the one who stood by him so staunchly and so strongly, and took him through that difficult time and difficult period. And now the way that she is working almost 12 hours a day. She has launched so many different initiatives for all different kinds of people, like in the agriculture sector, for women, for differently abled people, for everybody. And she is working so hard for the betterment of the people. That kind of a role model, when she's made a victim of this kind of disinformation and misinformation on social media, it's not harming for her, because she is a leader. It harms those people, those millions of girls and young boys, yes, and their mindsets, because they admire. So it's, you know, harmful for them. So that's one point.
I agree completely. It's about the fact that, you know, it doesn't take away anything from her, but it takes away from the confidence of those women, those young children, those young women who aspire to be her, who aspire to be like her, and it takes away the confidence from them when this happens to her. And it, of course, shows a kind of society, a kind of face of society that we would all not want to see. And that is something that cannot be emphasized enough, whether you're a man or woman. And I think that Dr. Shezra herself has said that, you know, it's happened to her also overall. It's happened to so many women of your party overall. And there has to come a point in time when we rise above this kind of politics. And one had hoped that we had, unfortunately. Ji, Daniyal.
See, I just want to add something to this whole discussion. In my hometown in Attak, when I was growing up in the 90s, one woman used to drive a car, and it was a big issue, and everyone saw this woman is driving a car. Today, out of 11 civil judges, 4 are women. Out of 6 ACs, 2 are women. We have had an ADCG, a woman. We've had an SP, she was a woman. See, we should appreciate the fact that women are coming out of their houses and they're playing a role. Yes, it's going to take time, but this has more to do with society. As far as this mindset is concerned, obviously this party has a fundamentalist mindset. There's no debate on that. But having said that, I think we should also appreciate the fact that now society is evolving, and there are a lot of women on key positions. Like I told you, example of my hometown Attak, which is relatively a much backward place compared to Islamabad. Over there, if women are playing such a vital role in society, I think that should be appreciated.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Daniyal Sheikh, thank you for joining us. Dr. Shezra Mansab Ali, thank you for being with us today. Barrister Safi, Ghauri, thank you for your time. Of course, overall, as far as the talks are concerned, we certainly expect them to continue. Whether they will be a written, charter of demands by the PTI as a political party, we are waiting for that. Let's see where it goes. Of course, all political parties, and like we discussed, should stand for protecting all segments of society, women particularly, and any kind of attack on women of the kind that we recently saw is condemnable, should be condemned on all levels. And of course, as a society, whether we evolve or not, the question is, what does a particular political party stand for? When these kind of tactics are used against a person of the position of CM Punjab that we've seen recently. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.